Welcome everyone. Thank you for watching this video, the second one on the How to Write a Book series. My name is Christine Levis. I am the author of the young adult novels The Girl Between Two Worlds and The Girl Between Light and Dark by Anvil Publishing. Now, in the first video of this series, we covered some easy tips on how to start writing your first book. Let's continue that journey with the second video. Now, for this episode, I want to discuss the topic on plotting your books. Now, how do you plot books? What is plotting anyway? For this video, I will tell you what I learned over the years and how I do my own plotting. Other authors may do it differently, and that's fine too. It's different each author. But the good thing about these things is that we learn from others and then decide what works best for us. Now, if you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the comment section below or contact me directly through the contact page on my website. I'll try to answer them either through my blog or on the next video. Okay, let's start the video. First, let's figure out what it means to be a plotter or a pantser. I wrote about this on my blog before to explain. A plotter is someone who plans the book from its characters, settings, the arcs that go from book 1 to 2 to book 3 to book 4. Each chapter is planned really well. The advantage for this one is that it is easier to organize your story, leaving little room for plot holes. Pantsing is when you sit down and just write the story. If something comes to you and you want to add it, you just add it. I found that when I wrote like this, I felt freer. The problem was that I wasn't always in the mood to write. And you'll find that with yourself too. I mean, I got stuck a lot during some chapters, and I had to stop writing and then just go take a walk to clear my head. This hindered the writing process a lot. When I first started writing, I was a pure pantser, mainly because I had no idea how to plot. I just started writing fiction and I was still learning from other authors. It was fun, and since it was the only thing I knew how to do, I did it that way. My first novel, The Girl Between Two Worlds, was pantsing all the way. I never plotted the end. I never plotted the twist, never plotted the arc, even though I already knew it was going to be more than one book. That was quite a risk for me, because if you don't plan a series, there is a high chance you will miss some things. But that was how I ended up, and so I went with the flow. It was my first novel too, so I wasn't familiar with the best plotting techniques out there. Book 2 was a different matter. I plotted The Girl Between Light and Dark 2 years before the first book was even released. I knew the start, the middle, and the end, but it did not work out the way I intended. I mean, when I started writing book 2, I followed through with the first half of the plotting. But then there came a point when my character changed. New characters were introduced, and the events escalated. I mean, it wasn't deliberate. It just kind of happened. I had time to think about the book for 2 whole years, and in that time, I wrote down notes on changes I wanted to make. I kept a lot of things from the plot, but the second half of the book was very different from how I initially imagined it. How different exactly? For one, I decided to make it a duology instead of a trilogy. Yes, it is a longer book from the first one, but I realized there's no point stretching it to a trilogy. I listened to one lecture about writing young adult novels, and they said, only do a trilogy if it is indeed a trilogy. But don't do it if you're just doing it for the sake of having a trilogy. I thought it was a good point. I have several manuscripts that I'm writing and editing right now. I am pantsing and plotting in all of them. The second time I tried plotting a lot more than pantsing was when I joined my first ever National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo. Now, for those of you who don't know what NaNoWriMo is, it's a writing challenge that happens every November. You write every day for a month and basically finish a whole novel by the end of November. It's a good exercise of discipline and definitely worth doing at least once. Plotting that book helped me prepare for the grueling writing month and avoid writer's block as much as possible. Not to say I didn't have writer's block during that challenge, but it happened much less than when I was pantsing. So, how do you plot a book? If you Google samples on how to plot a book, you will get a lot of images on the various ways you can do it. The thing is, you don't need to copy them or need an elaborate diagram to do this. If you look at J.K. Rowling's handwritten plotting for Harry Potter, you'll see that she just used a pen and paper. You can plan it in different ways. Just make sure you have the important elements there. The characters, the timeline, the setting. Think of how it starts and ends. Think of the middle, the climax of the story. Think of whether the book is going to be chronological or is it going to be a timey-loopy kind of story. When you figure out all of this, you can outline the book chapter by chapter. Then when you start writing, you can refer to your notes. Some writers are quite detailed with their outline. For me, it was both. Some chapters were outlined very specifically, while others were more of an idea on what should happen. And it was all written on a notebook I carried around with me. Sometimes when I needed to write things down, I used my phone, then added it to my notebook. Still, one thing you have to remember is that each moment has to push the story forward. By plotting the book, you can ensure that each chapter is significant for the storyline. Right now, I use a combination of plotting and pantsing with all my books. I found a comfortable balance between the two that makes my process much smoother. Whatever you decide to do, though, it needs to be something that suits your writing process. Don't copy other authors just because they're famous. What works for others might not work out for you. Okay, that's it for the second video. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, add them on the comments below or send me an email. I'll try my best to cover it on the next video. Again, thank you everyone. Please share the video to other writers who might find this useful, and you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook or subscribe to my newsletter on my site. And if you subscribe now, I got 2 free things for you: my ebook on writing and the first chapters of The Girl Between Light and Dark. All you need to do is subscribe to the newsletter. So you can go to my site, kmlevis.com, to get your free ebooks. That's it. Thank you everyone.